first topic that we are going to cover is aging is optional, the scientific promise. And to present this topic, I would like to call upon Mr. Pieree Edouard Sottas from Switzerland. He's the manufacturer of globally well-known nutraceutical products from Switzerland. And ladies and gentlemen, I would be requesting you all, let's have an energetic round of applause for Mr. Pieree Edouard Sottas. Come on, everybody.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I just want to make a few words about the previous talk, because I agree so much actually what has been said anyway, the discussion yesterday evening about this kind of mix that we are living now between actually, I think, history and what so much has been happening, especially here in India. And I'm a scientist, so I will actually more use actually bottom-up approach of there, and hopefully, yes, we can join afterwards. Okay, so aging optional, the science promise, that's me. Okay, that was in India, Ladakh, last September. That was wonderful. I was cycling. I don't actually here recommend to do that if you're not actually having a healthy lifestyle. I'm here riding my bike more than 5,000 meters high, really riding to the top of the world. That is the highest pass in the world. It's here in India. Okay, my message here is that, okay, we first have to get the things right. My presentation, which is a lot about science, about a lot of technical stuff, but if you don't get right about the basic things, which is about nutrition, about diet, about mindfulness, we heard so much about that, about community, about sleep, this actually has close to no meaning. That's the famous rule of the 80-20. I will actually discuss more about the last 20, but again, be aware that first we have actually to get our basics right. I'm 51 years old. At that time, I do test a lot myself. I worked during more than 25 years in labs, and there is someone in the world who is claiming he's the most tested person in the world. Actually, I may disagree, it's maybe myself. I have this privilege actually to work in the lab. And I'm testing my biological age. I'm 51 years old. When I was doing this tour, I was 31 years old. Now, these last 4 months, I got a lot of stress in my life. And actually, just in 6 months, my biological age is increased by 9 years, actually. But just actually the message here is that there is a flexibility, some adaptability in our body to modify our biological age. Okay, so now let's discuss more about what is happening here. And as a scientist, I was at a famous conference back last November, and was very impressed by the mindset of the scientists today. We are now claiming that, yes, it is possible to reverse aging in humans. This is a huge claim that scientists are making, and scientists are not, I would say, used to make that kind of claims. We first do clinical trials, we are looking for evidence, but here they are claiming that's something that we want to achieve. And this is directly translated into this shift, paradigm shift that we have in healthcare. I'm sure you heard about personalized medicine. We are shifting from treatment to personalized medicine, the right drug for the right patient. But there's another one shift that is still more important, is actually from, I would say, more reactive medicine to prevention. And this one is directly translated into numbers, financial numbers. The market of healthcare will increase by 5 trillion in 5 years. This has never been actually seen in history. It's just a huge amount of money that is coming, and is driven by us. By us, everyone, we want actually to take control of our health. And at the frontier between these two, if you combine these two, I call that personalized wellness, and that's actually something that I will explain in more detail during this talk. Okay, aging. We heard a lot about all the factors that exist that impact on health, but aging may be the main one, If we look here at some numbers from the World Health Organization, you will see, for example, that heart diseases is very low number when aged between 45 and 55 years old. But increase not by 10%, not by 20% in a relative way, but 6 times just in 20 years. And that's been aging is really a main factor of diseases. There have been some people now that are claiming it is a disease, and are looking actually to have a kind of reimbursement by insurances through this process. So now that we know that aging is a major driver of chronic diseases. There's a lot of bad science that's been done these last 20 years. And we now have a really, I would say, good understanding. Sure, there's still a lot of discover, a lot on the various processes that we have in our body. And these have been defined as the hallmarks of aging. Afterwards, I will give examples of these hallmarks. I will discuss about one molecule as an example, as one pathway. It's an NAD pathway, which is responsible for many biological processes in our body. I'm really fascinated by how actually the body has evolved as a natural selection to use that molecule with so many, I would say, critical processes in our body. So there are 12 hallmarks of aging that's been defined. Now, if we'd like actually to take control of the health, there are really 3 pillars that are really critical. And the 3 pillars, by the way, are the 3 that we have as part of the X Longevity, our company, which is about the action we take, then about the feedback we gather, is really about testing ourselves, which is my main field of expertise, testing our body. We can do blood tests, we can monitor a lot of things. And then also it's a lot about education, about getting the right message to the person. And so also about what we call coaching. So the mix of intervention, monitoring and testing, expert coaching go all together. It's really about a holistic approach. If we can just take one or the other, I don't think that we'll reach actually the goal of healthy aging. So let's take an example which is really about NAD. And I will show through, for example, a blood test like this one, how you can test your NAD levels in blood. It's very easy. It's just a simple finger prick. You prick your finger on the dry blood spot card, and then you send to a lab, and you got your NAD levels. And then you have, for sure, methods to increase NAD. I will discuss about the natural ones, based on nutrition, diet, on the exercise, sleep, meditation. That's all actually have an effect of NAD. And then, yes, we can boost a bit. As soon as we have the 80% right, we can take precursors. And our company has really focused on trying to have the best purity and bioavailability of this product. And we will show that we not only test the quality of that product here, but we test directly the result on our body, which is way more efficient because really what matters at the end. Okay, let's use this example of NAD about action, feedback, and guidance. So NAD, what is NAD? NAD is, I think, I'm again fascinated by this molecule, is that it's the one that is involved in cellular metabolism. We've only a very limited amount of NAD in our body, only a few grams. But this molecule has a capacity to recycle that is just crazy. The transfer of electron by NAD to NADH and vice versa, we are talking here about billions times billions per second of this transaction in the human body. It's just crazy how efficient is our body on that. And just if these processes are not worked out that well, for example, 99.9%, just a very, very small part does not work, we produce reactive oxygen species, which is the main producer of reactive oxygen species in our body. But it's not only about production of energy, of ATP in our body, but this same molecule is also involved in DNA repair, which is something completely independent. So how wonderful that through natural selection, a single molecule can do all these kind of things, these critical processes. So it's not by chance that this molecule, and I think that the only one that we have in our body, is involved in 7 hallmarks of aging. 7, not 1, not 2, but 7 hallmarks. And this molecule NAD has decreased big time with aging in our cells. It is in our cells, it's not in our blood, in our serum, it's really in the cells. That's where actually it works, especially in the mitochondria. So when the NAD level do decrease with aging, then, okay, it works a bit less efficiently, and this decline increase oxidative stress, energy loss, DNA damage. That's why it's so important actually to have high NAD levels. It's just one example. Again, I can discuss about glutathione, which is our antioxidant, but that's exactly the same rule that I apply. Is that we have a lot of biomarkers of aging in our body, these molecules that decrease with age, and then we can try actually to get them in a level that's close to when we were 20. And I will give then show you some test results here that show how we can really improve NAD levels. Longevity, there's more already than 30 clinical trials done in humans. There are many more done in mammals, in mice, but in humans. About, I would say, precursors, or NAD itself. NMN and R are two well-known precursors. And without any exceptions, all these clinical trials have mentioned some great benefits here. We're here with the list of benefits. About main one for sure is mitochondrial function. That's evident. But then directly more function under the way we live, and about energy. I don't know anyone who does not have to try to improve NAD that does not have actually a boost in energy. Also about mental clarity, something that's really impressive. So let's now go a bit more deeper in the science of NAD and how the body has created multiple pathways to synthesize NAD and to recycle NAD. So here, that's the three actually main pathway size NAD. We heard about tryptophan before, right before. Clearly a key molecule, an essential amino acids. And this one, even though I say out of these three, maybe the one that has the less influence. De novo biosynthesis. I will say then a few words about the pre-cellular pathway, but let's first discuss about the last one, which is the salvage pathway, including the recycling. Okay, I was talking about NAD and how actually there's so many cycles per second in our body to produce NADH. In the billions times billions is 10 power 18 0. I don't know if you can imagine that, per second in our body. So efficient. But then, that's what talking about how we can actually, how our body does synthesize NAD, but also that's how it is consumed. And there are, I would say, three main processes that consume NAD. I mentioned about DNA repair, and that's the famous sirtuins that are here. But out of these three, the main one, if you have some inflammation, you have CD38 that is increasing big time, and they can very rapidly, in hours, decrease your NAD levels in the cells in here. One pathway that is extremely efficient is based on the recycling pathway that involves NMN and here, and based on consumption and nicotinamide. And I will say a few words about NMPT, which is, I would say, the limiting factor in this recycling pathway. And there are many, I would say, biohacking techniques that were also mentioned this morning. Exercise is one. Here, especially high intensity exercise, is a very efficient way to increase NMPT. Meditation, that's as well. And there are other substances that can, especially some polyphenols, have an impact on NMPT. Then I will discuss more about the way to increase NMPT. I'm talking more about the natural ways. The first one is just exercise, especially high intensity exercise. Here, we can increase NAD by a factor of 2, which is a really high number. It's, again, not 10%, 20% more through actually exercise in our cells. And this is done through another pathway, the activation of a kinase, AMPK kinase. And there is one type of exercise, which is high intensity, which is the most efficient yet for that. And again, it's through the simulation of NMPT. Second one is about healthy diets. And here it's talking about the pre-cellular pathway. We mentioned about vitamin B3. And you can get that in liver, red meat, poultry, fish, anchovies, avocado, nuts. Really a lot of food that give enough vitamin B3. But there's another molecule which is pretty interesting, which is leucine, which is available more in animal proteins that actually maximize the effect of NAD. It's a cofactor on sirtuin activity here. And finally, there's also other nutrients that I know to activate MPK. We heard this morning about curcumin, resveratrol, berberine, and there's this one pathway where they're pretty active. A third one is about stress management, meditation in here. These can also actually lead to sustained level of NAD. But now let's actually discuss more about, I think that's when you get this 80% right, that's how you can use other means to get, I would say, youthful level of NAD. You can directly inject NAD. You can do an injection of NAD. I will say that there are some pros and cons to that method here, especially about the bioavailability and how this large molecule can cross the membranes. And then more about the precursors, such as nicotine, NR, and NMN. So the main challenge out of all of those is really about to get NAD into our cells. Because if we absorb something, that's not necessarily come into in our blood. It's a question of bioavailability here. But then, that's only the first process. The second process is really about when it comes from the blood, how it goes to the cells, and then from the cells, how it goes to the mitochondria. So there are several ways to administer a drug. It can be nasal, oral, sublingual, IV, these kind of things here. And then, when it enters the blood, how actually can cross the membrane. And it's only very recently, and this field has been, I would say, very controversial these last years to find the best method to increase NAD levels. And the only thanks now to this kind of tests that we can test. It's very difficult actually to test NAD because NAD is a very unstable molecule. As soon as it is out of your body, in blood, it takes just a few minutes to degrade because there are a lot of enzymes, the NADase, that do degrade NAD. So the challenge is not actually to measure in blood. It's pretty easy. There are a lot of techniques. Mass spectrometry is a very useful one for that, but it's really to stabilize NAD. And this kit here does stabilize NAD by two processes. One is physical, to dry the blood as soon as possible on dry blood spot count, but another one which is chemical. So these kind of tests are now has been applied in practice, and there are some research that have shown that through measuring NAD levels, not in blood, but in cells, and here on this graph you have a lot of organs or with different type of cells in our body, and here with the protein expression of NAD, and it tells you actually how efficient can be these transporters of NAD from the blood to the cells. And what has been observed is that the precursors, such as NR and NMN, have some dedicated transporters, which makes actually sense from a biological point of view, from a natural selection point of view, to cross these membranes from the blood to the cells. And here you have the name of these transporters. And the good news is that actually these transporters are expressed in most type of cells in our body, which makes sense because all cells need energy, and we need NAD. And here, with NAD, which is again a large molecule, it's a bit more complicated than, for I would say, the precursors. And here, because NAD is not produced, synthesized actually in our blood, it's produced into our cells. So the body has not actually done a specific transporter for NAD, except one that is expressed only under certain conditions. And these conditions are inflammations. If you have a kind of inflammation, some sort of inflammation, these transporters are expressed and does help a lot to transport NAD into the cells. But there is only under condition. That's why when you have these kind of study that have been done, you can see that these two NAD precursors, NR and M, are very efficient to increase NAD levels in most cell tissues. Yeah. So next slide here, it's directly the results of this test. This is not an official clinical trial, but what do we see here? We see here for 4 persons, there are 2 men, 2 women, aged between 35 and 55 years old. And these persons here, that's baseline levels. We have 3 for that person here, 2 here, 3 here, 2 here. And then these persons were taking some NAD precursors, some NMN, some lingually. Some lingually, why? Because the bioavailability of NMN is way better sublingual than oral. And without any exception, actually in blood, we saw a significant increase in NAD levels. To reach these levels is very difficult, if not impossible, to reach by natural means. Even if you do the exercise, healthy lifestyle, and so on is very difficult. And these are much closer to the levels that we have when we are 20 years old. The main decrease of NAD levels in cells is observed during between the decade between 20 and 30 years old. We lose about 25% of NAD in our cells here. So in conclusion here, we have a very efficient way to increase NAD levels into our cells. So just one example of NAD here. Another example is glutathione. Glutathione is master oxidant. We can have, for example, a product like this one, which consists of glycine and N-acetylcysteine, which has the 2 building blocks of glutathione, and exactly the same results. If you take this product, you will naturally increase your glutathione level. Glutathione does also, by the way, decrease with aging significantly. Yeah. Okay. All the products that we have by X Longevity have been optimized for purity and bioavailability. Again, not only about testing the purity, but also, and that's something we're really proud of, testing directly the effect into the body. But it's not only about supplements here, talking about X Longevity. Again, what the 3 pillars, which is about testing here, about coaching, certified experts. We have a coaching platform. All is digital, either online or in app. The app is still not available, but under development. But last but not least, also working now on interventions that have been proven actually to help in the field of longevity. A vision. Again, coming back to my first comment, I think we are really at an inflection point in the field of longevity now. With this paradigm shift that exists, with now scientists claiming that these very, I would say, high-tech techniques, we talk about stem cell therapy, we can talk about extracellular vesicles, can be produced, by the way, by stem cells, so by epigenetic reprogramming, playing on the Yamanaka factors, parabiosis, plasma transfer. There are really excellent techniques that are coming. And now many scientists, including me, believe that will be able to reverse aging by 2030. That's, by the way, one competition has been launched no later than last November for the X Prize Foundation. They really try to promote companies, academic institutions to work together to reverse aging. Thank you so much. You can contact me directly here on my email, or please, you can come to our booth outside. Thank you.